Hi everyone, welcome to TSPN's News In-Depth for today, and I'm with Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Tom.
Good, and you have a little smile on your face. You know I've been changing the background,
Tom
right?
has been a busy guy for the last 5 minutes.
I don't know if I had enough time to cool down. Anyway, we're going to be talking about AB 1191 and the failure of 1191 going through. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Okay, well, I think fortunately a lot of your viewers are probably very familiar with the scenario that has unfolded over the past year and a half or so, in which a loophole, I'll call it, in the Revenue and Taxation Code that was written at the time that a couple of state funding mechanisms were set up to help them with their funding issues, actually backfired and created this loophole where the county and the cities haven't received the full amount of property tax that we had expected to receive, as every other city and county in the state does.
Right, so we kind of had to go to a fight to try to get it back, right? Or at least bring it to their attention and then start from there.
We were fortunate that Assemblymember Huber recognized the situation and worked with her staff to put together legislation to try to create a fix for this that would require the state to, or it would actually put in place a mechanism for the state to reimburse the county and the cities, but it still require legislative action to put the money there. And it started in this process in December of last year and worked its way through the Assembly without a single no vote, and then went through the first Senate Budget Committee. There were some concerns raised by Legislative Analyst's Office about potential future effect to other counties if the same circumstances occurred. And then when it got to the Senate Appropriations Committee, it stalled out and it was put in the suspense file back in June, and then the deadline to move bills out of the suspense file occurred about a week and a half ago, and this bill failed to get the positive votes it needed to get out of the suspense file. So essentially it's dead for this year and it's back to square one.
Okay, so but there's a little bit of good news in here. Huber's bill did allow it for us to get paid back for 1 year's time.
It was actually not Huber's bill. It was the state budget. The Department of Finance also got wind of what the situation was.
It might not have been the bill, but there was a lot of pressure and a lot of people knew about it because of the bill as well.
So a line item was placed in the state budget. And that was approved with the state budget. So the county and the cities for fiscal year 10-11, which is June 1st, 2010 through June 30th of 2011, for that fiscal year, we'll get reimbursed for what we should have received through this particular property tax issue.
Okay. And
that, just so you know, the total of that is about $1.5 million for the county and the cities. For the county, it's a little over $1 million. For Jackson, it's slightly under $100,000. And these were numbers that we were kicking around during our budget process this year because I think the budget was adopted. The state budget was actually adopted only 2 days after the city budget this year. So we had pretty much counted on that money getting approved, although the budget itself was approved with a number showing that it hadn't been approved yet. We were also very much hopeful that Assembly Bill 1191 would take care of fiscal year 12-13, which is the one that we're in right now.
Well, like you said, it's going to affect all the cities and certainly the county.
It is.
And will Jackson be looking at their budget?
We will be revisiting the budget. When we adopted the budget before the state budget was adopted, we were about $125,000 in the hole, in the red. With the money that we received from the state budget approval, that only put us about $28,000 in the hole. Our general fund reserve was over $700,000. So, you know, what the council wants to do in terms of policy decisions to whether to go back and make $28,000 worth of cuts in this fiscal year will have to be determined. But the big problem is going to be next fiscal year, because we know at this point in time anyway that we're structurally about $125,000 in the red with the general fund, and that's a general fund of about $3.3 million. overall.
Okay, so I'm sitting here, I'm thinking like, well, if the schools, say if the schools weren't a basic aid,
right,
would we be getting more money?
We would be getting this money that we, up until fiscal year 9-10, had received as just part of the general process. Until fiscal year 9-10, or actually it wasn't even until the following fiscal year that we found out that fiscal year 9-10 was included. Nobody in this county had any idea that this particular scenario could unfold, or that this was even a possibility under the whole triple flip and vehicle license fee swap. So until there's some kind of either a permanent solution, or until the economic revenue bonds that were sold in 2004 are paid off, which isn't for another 3 or 4 years, that's only a part of this money. We're still going to be this full amount short every year.
Okay, so, and I wanted to, I believe the basic aid, the school has nothing to do with saying we want to be a basic aid,
no.
We don't want to be a basic aid. That's a threshold that they hit.
It's a threshold based on their enrollment figures and on the property tax revenues in the county. And those have both declined over the past few years. And I've asked the district to kind of give us a general idea of how many more students or how much more property tax revenue it might take to get out of the basic aid classification. But my impression is that it's not something that will likely occur within the next few years.
Okay, so so we're going to be doing without some of that money.
We will be, and you know, in Jackson we've had layoffs. We're still doing furloughs. It's a very difficult situation because the other thing that we're not really using general fund money for are for capital improvement projects. So we have a lot of deferred maintenance that's been building up.
Do you think it could be a possibility that we could be handled again in the budget of next year in the same way so therefore it could be specifically applied?
That's one door that would still be open, and I think was even mentioned in the last legislative analysis document that reviewed the situation as a kind of a whole statewide thing, was that there's still the possibility of being part of the budget process every year, but that requires quite a bit of effort and
it certainly does,
and the right political environment too. I'm sure that if the state tax solution on the November ballot fails and they're looking at cutting the school year by 10 to 15 days and all the other draconian cuts that they're looking at, that it will be very difficult to get this money put in the budget again next year.
Okay, so we should, I imagine your advice to the council is going to be don't look for any money.
Well, we'll be probably figuring that at least we should know somewhat around budget time next year whether or not any money has at least been included in the state budget for consideration. And if not, we'll have to, we'll be planning well ahead of time as to what our options are to deal with that.
Okay, well, I'd like to say I think that all the cities have done a fantastic job of being able to, adopt their budgets to the shortfall and into the economy, the bad economy that we find ourselves in. I think they've done a really good job of being able to maintain what they have and the services at a level that seems to be working okay for people.
I think we're really proud of our employees and what they're able to continue doing, and how they can stretch themselves really to do more than just what their typical job was before. We have 5 people in our public works department now instead of 7. We lost one of our building inspectors and our engineering inspector. We're still doing furloughs 2 days a month, so everyone's salaries and benefits have been cut. But we're still continuing to do our best to provide all the services that we've been providing to the community. But I think people appreciate that they're working and that they have jobs.
Right.
But it's tough to continue providing the same services that you've been doing when you have fewer people to be able to do it.
Now, Jackson has a furlough Friday, and I think you might have mentioned that in what you just said, right?
Right. We do 2 Fridays per month. So essentially, it's about a 9.25% savings in salaries and benefits to the city.
Okay, 9.5. That's a good percentage. Okay, and it's not that hard to get through to you because I dialed up and it says it's Friday, it's a furlough day, but try phonetically doing it on the phone, and I'm going, D, when I get to the A, is anyway, it worked. I wasn't sure if I had to go like 3 to get into the, kind of like when you text message.
Yeah, we are there occasionally, even on the furlough Friday, some of us. So.
Okay, so what else? Jackson's going to be having another meeting, a council meeting soon.
Right.
And what's going to be on the agenda? Maybe you can just give us a brief, we have about a minute and a half left of what's coming up.
Well, one of the things that has been a topic on the show lately has been the Amador Water Agency and the proposed rate increase. So the council will be reviewing the information that the outreach committee looked at last week regarding the proposed rate increase and what's included in that. So that'll be one of the items. The other item on our agenda Monday night that will take some time will be reviewing or taking comments on our wastewater environmental impact report.
Okay. And we're going to go to a break, and we'll be back with City Manager Mike Daly after this break. Stay with us. You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.